AI job losses are real, and that's not the problem. The denial is. Over the past 24 months, enterprise leaders have watched two headlines run in parallel and in direct contradiction. The first, AI will not replace jobs. The second, tech companies lay off tens of thousands in strategic AI pivot. This isn't miscommunication, it's narrative control, and it's distorting how enterprises assess risk, talent strategy, and delivery models. At Greyhound Research, we do not treat job losses as aberrations. We view them as an expected and, at times, necessary outcome of capability evolution. What we challenge is the denial. The refusal to link AI investments to workforce shifts is not just misleading. It robs CIOs and CHROs of the visibility they need to govern responsibly. During a recent Greyhound field note from an advisory engagement with a global BFSI major, the CIO described how a vendor representative arrived with an AI transformation deck claiming that no roles would be lost. AI is augmenting, not replacing. 2 months later, half of the client support team had been replaced with automated ticket flows. Per the Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, 68% of CIOs globally now state that AI-linked initiatives, particularly in infrastructure, testing, and L1, L2 support, have already led to team reductions or redeployments, both internally and across vendor partners. We at Greyhound Research believe this isn't about narrative, it's about architecture. Vendors aren't just managing perception, they're rebuilding the model itself. If layoffs are part of the AI maturity curve, let's treat them as such. But pretending otherwise denies enterprises the clarity they need to govern transformation responsibly. What follows is not a takedown. It's a reality check. Acknowledging displacement is not the same as resisting change. But ignoring it, or worse, denying it while executing it, erodes trust, cloud strategy, and sets the wrong tone for what the AI era should stand for. AI funding and workforce shift. Why delivery is being rewritten. In the first quarter of 2025, the signals have been unmistakable. Multiple global tech vendors have slowed hiring, delayed wage hikes, and initiated internal restructuring even as they unveil expansive AI roadmaps. Viewed in isolation, these moves may seem tactical. Taken together, they signal something deeper. AI is not just the product. It's now the logic behind how technology organizations are being redesigned. We at Greyhound Research believe this moment marks a decisive rebalancing of how talent and capital are allocated. Budget once earmarked for broad-based team growth is now being redirected toward AI infrastructure, model training, and niche skill sets aligned to monetizable outcomes. In this context, workforce reduction is no longer a reactive cost measure. It's baked into the business case of automation-led delivery. One Greyhound field note from a European telecom enterprise illustrates this pivot. A global SaaS vendor wound down its L2 support engagement citing platform consolidation. Within weeks, the same vendor introduced an AI-led service model to replace the support layer. As the CIO reflected, the transition was abrupt. We lost continuity with people who understood our systems, and we weren't fully confident the AI tooling could pick up where they left off. Per the Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, 74% of CIOs globally expect to extract at least 25% cost saving from vendors on application maintenance and infrastructure support by Q4 FY25, primarily through automation. These expectations are already reshaping delivery models mid-contract. Meanwhile, inside many product and cloud vendors, headcount is shifting behind the scenes. AI-linked roles, from prompt engineers to model compliance officers, are growing, while generalist infrastructure and support roles are quietly phased out. This is not a workforce erosion story. It's a surgical reallocation, strategic, narrow, and laser-focused on building capability where AI delivers margin and monetization. We at Greyhound Research believe that what matters now is not the rhetoric, but the redesign. As enterprise buyers engage with AI-first delivery models, the question is no longer just what's being delivered, but who's still delivering it. Messaging versus manpower, the real shape of AI delivery. As AI becomes central to vendor strategy, a predictable split has emerged. Public messaging emphasizes augmentation, while internal delivery models pivot quietly, but deliberately, toward automation. From investor calls to product launches, the language is familiar: co-pilot, efficiency without displacement, freeing up humans for strategic work. But inside enterprise accounts, the reality often speaks a different language. We at Greyhound Research believe this dissonance is no longer just rhetorical. It's operational. AI isn't simply augmenting work. It is actively reshaping who does the work and how. Roles aren't being displaced overnight, but they are being redesigned around AI-first assumptions. In some cases, they're being quietly removed altogether. A Greyhound field note from a global logistics client captured this shift. After deploying an AI-led ticket triaging system, the client reported a 40% reduction in manual effort, and shortly after, a corresponding cut in vendor-side headcount. No one called a layoff, the CIO noted, but our account team shrunk. The AI system became our first line of response. Per the Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, 70% of global CIOs say vendor-deployed AI has already displaced human involvement in one or more delivery functions, most commonly in support, testing, or infrastructure. Yet fewer than a third say they were informed in advance about how this would affect delivery staffing. This isn't just about disclosure. It's about design. Vendors are shifting toward a different kind of workforce, smaller, more specialized, and disproportionately weighted toward roles that drive AI outputs, like prompt engineers, ML operations staff, and automation policy owners. Generalist roles, such as QA testers, support analysts, and project managers are being rescoped or replaced. Another Greyhound field note from a North American media company captured this reallocation sharply. A 20-person QA team was replaced with 5 machine learning specialists overseeing automated testing. It works, the CTO admitted, but it's fragile. There's no bench anymore. If one of them leaves, we're exposed. We at Greyhound Research believe this introduces a new class of enterprise risk, capability density without redundancy. Lean teams deliver efficiency on paper, but at the cost of resilience. When automation handles the bulk of delivery, even small staffing gaps can create outsized impacts. The enterprise ask is not for vendors to stop automating. It's to stop denying that automation has changed the team and to bring that change into the light. Vendor layoffs and AI restructuring, what the numbers really show. If enterprise leaders are still debating whether AI is displacing jobs, the market has already delivered its verdict. Over the past 24 months, nearly every major tech vendor has restructured headcount, not in response to falling demand, but in direct alignment with new AI delivery models and capital priorities. We at Greyhound Research believe these workforce changes are not reactive. They are strategic rewrites, with talent reallocation, automation tooling, and AI-fueled margin expectations built in from the outset. The public positioning may still champion augmentation, but the internal moves are calibrated for efficiency and cost predictability, often without naming the trade-offs. Across roles, a pattern has emerged. Broad delivery functions like support, testing, and QA are being reduced or phased out. AI-centric skills, from model tuning to prompt engineering, are being selectively scaled. The headcount may shrink, but the cost per role often rises, reflecting a shift from labor scale to capability leverage. The numbers confirm what frontline CIOs are already experiencing. AI is changing how vendors operate and who they employ to deliver on enterprise contracts. These are not isolated events. They represent a strategic playbook, one where AI not only drives cost savings, but also reshapes accountability, continuity, and escalation pathways inside enterprise support and engineering structures. We at Greyhound Research believe this table is not a retrospective. It's a forecast. If these vendors are restructuring in anticipation of AI-first delivery, then enterprise leaders must interrogate what that means for their own environments, not just commercially, but operationally and contractually. Because what's being automated is no longer just the task. It's the team behind it. Strategic reversal, when efficiency undermines trust. For the better part of 2 decades, enterprise technology partnerships were judged by their ability to scale, more people, more process, more coverage. But in the AI era, that logic has inverted. The new promise is precision, automation, and leaner engagement. Fewer people, faster outcomes. On paper, the pitch is compelling. But in practice, automation without continuity and speed without context are already eroding the trust these partnerships were built on. We at Greyhound Research believe the enterprise is entering a new phase, one where the gains from automation must be weighed against gaps in experience, escalation, and empathy. In chasing operational efficiency, vendors have slimmed down their human interfaces to the point where nuance, history, and interpretive judgment are no longer readily available. A Greyhound field note from a global industrial manufacturer brought this to life. After an AI-led change management tool triggered configuration updates across cloud workloads, the organization suffered a cascading outage. The bot followed the rules, said the CTO, but it lacked judgment, and the human escalation layer had already been downsized. It took us days to unravel something a senior engineer would have flagged in hours. Per the Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, 46% of tech leaders reported that AI-led delivery models introduced at least one unanticipated incident in the past year, where human intervention could have reduced recovery time. And while overall responsiveness has improved on paper, 63% say vendors have become slower or less effective at handling out-of-scope issues since streamlining support structures. This is the critical tension. AI makes the machine faster, but often makes the human harder to reach. Escalation paths are routed through chatbots. Outages are summarized by dashboards. But when edge cases hit, as they inevitably do, the lack of embedded human awareness adds hours or days to the fix. We at Greyhound Research believe this is the next major governance fault line CIOs must confront. Where does efficiency end and fragility begin? AI delivery models must be paired with resilient escalation frameworks, human override options, and contractual protections for high-impact scenarios. This matters most in sectors where precision is non-negotiable. Healthcare, BFSI, logistics, energy. In these environments, over-automation isn't just a support risk. It's a compliance issue, a safety risk, and a reputational liability. What's needed now is a recalibration. Efficiency is a valuable North Star, but trust is the true currency of enterprise technology relationships. And trust isn't earned by being faster. It's earned by showing up, especially when the AI doesn't. The Greyhound CXO Runbook: How CIOs Must Govern AI Delivery Now. As vendors reshape their delivery models around AI, enterprise leaders face a new governance imperative. The transition is no longer about tools, it's about teams. Traditional staffing assumptions no longer hold, and automation is not just changing workflows, it's altering who's responsible for what and how failures get resolved. A Greyhound field note from a GCC-based auto manufacturer underscored stakes. After a mid-contract restructuring, the systems integrator replaced its on-ground delivery team with a lean, AI-augmented pod. The new team is technically impressive, the CIO observed, but they don't know our history. Everything had to be re-explained. The AI summaries were useful, but they missed the hard-earned context. Per the Greyhound CIO Pulse 2025, 58% of enterprise CIOs globally experienced delivery friction in the past year tied to reduced continuity, often after vendors shifted to AI-led support models. These aren't failures of technology. They are failures of communication, change management, and accountability. We at Greyhound Research believe CIOs, CFOs, and CHROs must now lead with a different lens. It's not just about how AI performs, but how it's governed, who controls it, and whether escalation paths still connect to people who understand the enterprise. The following 10 imperatives are designed to help leadership teams reframe governance in the age of automation, before efficiency becomes an excuse for invisibility. 10 strategic imperatives for enterprise leaders navigating AI-led delivery shifts. 1/reframe AI deployment as a workforce transformation conversation, not just a tech initiative. Enterprise AI adoption is no longer limited to productivity tooling. It is actively reconfiguring who does the work, how value is delivered, and what continuity looks like. CIOs and CHROs must treat every AI-enabled vendor engagement as an inflection point in team design, accountability, and culture. 2/request delivery transparency, not just product demos. Ask vendors to detail how their AI-infused delivery model is staffed. Who's in the loop? Who governs the automation? Who handles edge cases? Don't wait until a live issue exposes a silent workforce shift. 3/make institutional memory a commercial term. Include continuity clauses in vendor contracts, especially during transitions from manual to automated service models. The goal is not to block AI, but to ensure that institutional knowledge is preserved as delivery models evolve. 4/revisit escalation models before you need them. When AI handles L1 and L2, ensure that L3 escalation still connects to humans with authority and history. Map this chain out clearly in governance documentation and vendor SLAs. 5/quantify the cost of failure in AI-led delivery. Not all automation delivers savings. In regulated environments, the cost of one AI-generated error may exceed a year's worth of efficiency gains. Build scenario planning into rollout strategies. 6/demand dual control. AI logic plus human override. Ensure AI-delivered outputs are explainable and reversible. CIOs must mandate human-in-the-loop protocols for high-risk, business-critical workflows, especially in cloud config, security, and customer support. 7/treat vendor workforce strategy as part of your risk register. If a vendor's team has changed materially or will soon, that is an operational risk. Include workforce composition and AI reallocation planning in vendor scorecards and quarterly reviews. 8/, prepare HR and L&D teams for shadow impact. Even if internal roles are safe, AI-led vendor models can affect how your teams interact, escalate, and execute. Upskill users not just in tools, but in new collaboration models that blend AI and vendor teams. 9/, use procurement leverage to demand clarity, not discounts. In AI-led contracts, the risk is not just pricing, it's opacity. Use your negotiation leverage to ask for clear reporting on automation scope, workforce composition, and transition planning. 10/, don't chase AI credibility, define AI continuity. The goal isn't to adopt AI faster than peers. It's to implement it in ways that survive turnover, delivery disruption, and shifting vendor priorities. Resilience matters more than race. Greyhound standpoint, the final word. This isn't a moral debate about whether AI should replace jobs. It's a structural reckoning with the fact that it already is, and that too many in the ecosystem are still pretending otherwise. The layoffs are real. The reallocation is underway. And the enterprise cannot afford to navigate this shift with a blindfold of polite optimism. We at Greyhound Research believe the time for hedging is over. The future of enterprise delivery is already being redrawn, not by product launches or investor memos, but by quiet restructuring, revised contracts, and a new definition of value in AI-led teams. This change is not inherently negative. It is foundational. But when vendors continue to promise augmentation while executing attrition, trust erodes and governance falters. What's needed now is not resistance to AI, but resistance to unreality. CIOs must demand clarity on who or what is delivering their services. CHROs must assess the human impact of invisible workforce changes. CFOs must interrogate efficiency claims, not just accept them. And the media must ask better questions. Not will AI take jobs, but why are we pretending it hasn't? Analyst in focus, Sanchit Gogia. Sanchit Gogia, or SVG as he is popularly known, is a globally recognized technology analyst, innovation strategist, digital consultant, and board advisor. SVG is the chief analyst, founder and CEO of Greyhound Research, a global, award-winning technology research, advisory, consulting, and education firm. Greyhound Research works closely with global organizations, their CXOs, and the board of directors on technology and digital transformation decisions. SVG is also the founder and CEO of the House of Greyhound, an eclectic venture focusing on interdisciplinary innovation. Copyright policy. All content contained on the Greyhound Research website is protected by copyright law and may not be reproduced, distributed, transmitted, displayed, published, or broadcast without the prior written permission of Greyhound Research or, in the case of third-party materials, the prior written consent of the copyright owner of that content. You may not alter, delete, obscure, or conceal any trademark, copyright, or other notice appearing in any Greyhound Research content. We request our readers not to copy Greyhound Research content and not republish or redistribute them, in whole or partially, via emails or republishing them in any media, including websites, newsletters, or intranets. We understand that you may want to share this content with others, so we've added tools under each content piece that allow you to share the content. If you have any questions, please get in touch with our community relations team at connect@thofper.com.